Gentlemen, it's time to acknowledge your lead and turn it into gold. Welcome to Alchemy 101 on the Artist First Radio Network. All past shows are archived. You can find them at artistfirst.com. Now here's your host. It's Halo Marques.
Hey, good evening, everyone. First show, exciting. So this is Alchemy 101. I'm Halo Marques, the host. I guess we should start with a little introduction so you guys kind of have an idea of where I'm coming from and where I hope we all get to. What's up, guys? How you doing? Very excited. Thank you, man. A bunch of people jumping in already. So Halo, that's actually my name. I've been doing what I do for, my whole life, but I really got into this passionate healing kind of in my late teens, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but currently, I'm the CEO and founder of a metaphysical company, once upon a time metaphysical, but called Mystech, and we are a biotech company. So we use actual science, and we have a machine, and we do all these things where we're able to imprint frequencies into metals and minerals and things I wear, and that's not what the show's about, but that's mostly my background. I work in bioengineering, and I've also been a Reiki master for about a decade. So when it comes to healing, I don't believe there's any one specific thing that's going to be for everybody. Hi, Jennifer. How you guys doing? But I do feel very strongly that we've kind of stumbled onto something that is a very key element that we're missing out with how our current society and electronics and so on works. So again, we'll get into all that, but just know that the idea behind the show is to really teach you, first of all, how to acknowledge your lead. Okay, and what I mean by that is whether it's a physical thing that you have, it's an emotional, for almost everybody, even when you're all the way woke and everything, if it's a spiritual thing, that is your lead. That's your heavy. That's your weight. That's what is making you feel toxic, right? Now, alchemy, a lot of people think is this idea that you can turn lead into gold. And whether you want to go as far back as Egypt of them turning lead into gold and ingesting it for these super abilities and everything, or if you're talking about Da Vinci's work where he was trying to literally turn lead into gold. At the end of the day, it's about change, right? It's about transmutation. And I want to tell you guys, you guys all have the ability to do this, and you all do this all the time, but the biggest thing that we're going to cover on this show is words and how we've lost the ability to really communicate what words mean, and we've started using what they imply. And because of that, there's chaos all over the place in our lives, in our conversation, in the workplace, and it's not even that we're doing it on purpose. It's just something that's so built in, and we do it so normally and naturally that we never even see it until it's like way, way, way too late, right? And everyone, whether you're really young, you're been around for quite a while, whatever the case is, you've all had that hindsight moment where you're like, man, I could have just done this. And most of the time, we know exactly what that is in the moment, and we just choose not to, right? So that's what the show is going to be about, because you can take these misunderstandings, these traumas that you've had in your life. And again, everyone's had them. That's the thing that people always seem to forget. And everyone's personal story is always the worst out there, right? Because we're the ones that have to go through it. So we have this weird value system even in our society right now. And I want to be able to help break that down. Everything I'm going to tell you guys is going to be really just from my experience. I'm a very, very big, strong believer in philosophy. And if you guys don't know this, the original philosophers, okay, this is really interesting, like Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, right, the big names. So none of these guys had computers. They didn't have these huge libraries all over the place. They weren't connected across the world. What they used to build philosophy, which is what all of our colleges and all of our educated people, they teach off of philosophies. They created all the philosophy through a system called gnosis. Right. And if anyone that's on there now seeing, actually did a little show for a while called Knowledge Through Gnosis, and it means to learn by experience. Right. So that means what your experience is, that's what's real. Right. Not what you heard, not what you read, not what you saw online, your own personal experience. Right. So you guys also know my job title. Right. Anyone that knows me already, if you don't know, anytime someone asks me what I do for a living, I'm a wizard. That's what I say to people. And I say this not in the context as I'm, shooting lightning out of my hands and, doing rituals at night or nothing crazy like that yet. But I mean in the same sense as how they considered Nikola Tesla, where the technology that we have and the understanding we have Definitely not up to Tesla's level, of course not. But it's just a little bit farther than where a lot of other scientists are at, because for whatever reason, after the 21st century, we decided that science meant make the world small and controllable. That's what science is right now. It's not what is out there and what's possible, and anything that's mentioned outside of the box, right? You even say the word metaphysics in front of some people, they have a complete meltdown because it's so stigmatized. Interestingly enough, most of the things in our society that have been so, just terrorized and attacked so strongly, once the gas got lit up just a little bit, everyone saw most of these things are amazing, healing, wonderful tools. Now, I'm in Oregon, so you guys already know which tool I'm going to say. Cannabis was stigmatized, and it's terrible, and stay away from it forever and ever and ever and ever, and it turns you into a bat, was an official FDA report, I think someone told me once upon a time. But now they took the stigma away, and now all of a sudden it heals everybody, and not just one or two things. It heals everything. So how could this terrible, horrifying thing suddenly be this way? So that is the same thing when it comes to metaphysics and spirituality, which religion has had a pretty tight stranglehold on that for a while. But as the world's become more connected, we're finding out that almost every religion has the exact same basis, which is, one, you're God. You have that power in you. You have that life form in you. You can tap into it. You can channel it. And two, so is your neighbor. So is your brother. So is everyone around you. So if we're all connected and all this same, there's no reason to not be treating every person like it was yourself, right? If you've ever met me in person, and please, man, stay with the show. I promise it doesn't change. I am the happiest, dancing, spinniest, crazy lunatic you'll ever come across. And I'm always smiling. I'm always happy. And it's not an act. It's not a show. It's a real thing. And I'm more freaked out that I run into people that are not like me all the time. So again, I don't believe I have all the answers or anything like that, but I do want to share my experiences with you guys and just some things that I've been able to kind of figure out that hopefully will inspire you guys to do whatever makes you happy, because there's not any one thing, right? We're all different. We all have our own needs and wants. And so that's the plan for the show. Okay. Just so you guys know, thank you, Paul. I miss you, man. Some things that we're going to be covering in the show. Okay. We're going to cover alchemy, not just in its base form. Like, interesting enough, right now as I'm talking to you guys, my voice is sending an energy to your brain, and you're interpreting that and changing it into something that you understand. Guess what? That's alchemy. Yeah, it is. It's not just this big magical process. Transmuting one thing into another thing is alchemy. So you're all alchemists, and you do it all the time. Now, here's another interesting thing, and we'll get into a couple other things, but you are whatever you say you are, okay? And I need you to really understand what I'm saying when I say this. When you're a little kid and you step out onto a baseball field for the first time, right? Your first game that you ever play, right? You are a baseball player, right? And if someone asks you, what do you do? I'm a baseball player. You didn't go to school for it. You're not getting paid for it. You're not professional, but that is what you are. Now, you can say, I do this, and like, well, no, you don't get paid, and say, no, you're not. How can someone else's opinion set the value of where you're at, right? Because this is the thing. We are all our own universe, right? Like, as I'm with you guys right now talking, and thank you guys. Oh, man, I'm having such a great time. We're having this shared experience right now, but I can't see my eyes, and you can't see your nose. So your experience right now, even though we're all sharing this, is entirely your own. So you are your own universe. And what's happening is we're just a bunch of universes crashing into each other. And before you get that realization, you have all this chaos and turmoil because you don't understand where these energies are coming from, right? You've been standing in line somewhere and someone walks by and you get a weird feeling. It's, I don't know what that was. Or, man, that felt like a really good person. You can tell innately, you know these things, you pick up on them, but we're told that it's not a real thing, or don't focus on it. And we have this here, all day long to where we have no breaks, guys. We don't get them. And you need to do that for yourself, right? And if you have people in your life that don't understand that, then you don't need those people. And that sounds really, really rough, but I can tell you from personal experience, one of the things that made me want to do this show, and I thought I was going to do this a bit later on, but I'll just tell you guys now. These things I'm talking about when I say small words or words being misused and perspective and just changing things, when I say that these things are important, I'm saying this firsthand, okay? Because your perspective about everything is what's going to set your pace and what's going to set your tone. It's your perspective, right? Have you guys ever seen anyone that's listening on the radio right now? Just visualize this for me if you would. But have you guys seen the picture with the 6 laying on the ground, and one person's on one end and another person's on the other, and one person sees a 6 and the other person sees a 9? They're both correct, but until you have both perspectives, you can't understand that confusion. So your perspective about every single thing, I am a Jedi, Jennifer, thank you. Your perspective about every single thing that you have in your life is going to set that tone and set that pace. When you're watching the clock, it slows down and the day drags on, right? When you're not paying attention at all, boom, the time is gone before you even know it. So wherever you feed your energy, know it will grow and it will get bigger. So your perspective is everything. I live in Portland, Oregon now, but this is the moment of my life where everything changed. I mean, anyone that's known me my entire life, I've always been very hyper, very excited, but not directed at all. You know, ADHD times a million, you know, Kaioken, whatever you want to go with. So here's what's really weird. Jared, man, I've done it a couple times. So I lived in Kingman, Arizona, right? And it's a scary place, especially when you're a person like me. And we'll just say in my late teens, we can maybe get into another day, but in short, I got to a point in my life where I did not like the way that I was interacting with my family. I didn't like how I was interacting with my friends. I didn't like how people were treating my house. I honestly hated everything about what was going on. And I got to that final point where I decided today was the day, tonight, it's over. Like, I literally had this full breakdown, and it was very, very serious, and it came out of nowhere, but it was just a compilation of all the little things that I could think of, and then all the other little things just seemed to weigh down, and I was ready to throw the towel in. That was it. And so at the time, I was working at this place called Hastings, right? It's like this movie store place. And it's okay, guys, because this is a thing. If most people are honest, and even if they don't get to that point, but we all have these ups and downs, and sometimes it just gets more than others. Like, I don't think that there's anything special or extra about this, but the perspective that it gave me was, man, I swear it saved my life. So I was working at this place called Hastings, and to get to work every day, I was there for months. So I'd done this walk hundreds of times. I had to walk through the middle of the town, and there was this huge fairgrounds, right? And it was just this big ball of dust and dirt and death and heat. And it was just terrible. And it was about 3.5 extra blocks that I had to walk around, get to the corner, make a right, walk to the other corner. And the whole time I was so frustrated with my life, I just kept focusing and seeing this dirt and this dust and this, and it was just feeding all these terrible things for me. And so I was ready, right? And so the day that I decided that this was going to happen, someone had broke a window in my house the day before. And it was weird because I remember that the glass is what made the whole thing even go through my head and triggered it. It was so weird. But I was like, yeah, that's it. So I'm doing the same walk, guys, same walk I always do. And I'm looking up. And at this point, I had stopped going to church, and I had this kind of epiphany realization, whatever, but it was an empty version of it. It was before everything else. And I was like, no, that's it. Can't do it. Can't do it. So God, universe, I don't care, anyone that's out there, if tonight's not the night for me to be done, I just need one little sign. And I'm walking, and I got my hands up, and I'm kind of looking, and nothing's happening, right? And I'm waiting. I'm walking a little bit. I get to the end of the block, guys, and as I'm about to turn, I just shrug and let my hands fall to the ground. My head sinks down. I'm like, all right, well, I guess that's it. And in the moment that I did this, you'll never believe this. This is insane. And still to this day, my head goes down, and to the right of my feet is this huge patch of weeds that had been there every single day. But what I've been missing every single day were all these amazingly perfectly formed and bright, beautiful purple flowers, right? And to this day, purple is still my favorite color. So here it was, I mean, a huge, like 8-9 feet wide field of just purple flowers everywhere. And for whatever reason, it caught me, and I stood on that fence. I was probably 45 minutes late to work and bawled my eyes out and realized right at that moment that every day I'd been so focused on this dust and this dirt and this desert and how terrible everything was, and this amazingly simple, beautiful thing was just sitting right here in front of me every single day, and I just kept missing out on it. And what was really funny about that, and this is one of the things, guys, I got so excited about these purple flowers that I bet I had my best work day ever. And in that moment, I said, I'm not going to acknowledge anything that's negative anymore. I'm going to take it and immediately find a way to make it a strength. because that long walk that happened legitimately saved my life. And it was a matter of a 2-second perspective switch, and it changed everything for me. So when I'm talking about changing your perspective and acknowledging your lead and turning it into gold, it's because I've had this experience that literally was a matter of life and death. So these are the things that set me on my path. And the next thing I knew, I wanted to become a life coach, right? And I was lucky enough to meet these amazing teachers that asked me to come talk at a school. And these kids, they all had that same look in their eye that I knew I had when I was walking. They just weren't to that step yet. And most of them came from small, broken homes and didn't really know what to do or didn't have a father figure. So when I got to go in and talk, I went completely nuts, guys. It was amazing. And I had these kids jumping up and down. My last class, the teachers came in, wanted to know what I was telling the kids. And I said, I told the kids to stop listening to you guys. That's basically what I told them. They're passionate. They're so excited. Let them do that. Be creative. And long story short, these guys ended up doing graffiti, and they went and got canvases, and they got to do their own little art show. It was amazing, and it blew me away. And at that moment, I decided I wanted to become a life coach. Now we fast forward. I ended up getting introduced to Reiki. And at that moment, if you guys have not, if you're watching this show and you've not had a Reiki experience, I'm telling you right now, whatever you're doing this weekend, find a place, go get a treatment. It will change your life. You have no idea. This is the thing. Please tell me I have some scientists out there listening. Please, anyone somewhere. We have a spectrum of colors and we have a spectrum of sound, right? These are the things that we have that we use for our eyes and our senses. There's so much on that spectrum that we can't see or hear. So you guys have to understand that there's also a huge field out there that we also don't know that we can feel. Whether you want to call it the ether, you want to call it mana, you want to call it prana, the force. Right? I actually teach Jedi courses up here, and we call it the balance. But there is definitely an intangible that's very tangible energy field that's around all of us. And science is now reconfirming it, right? We take energy from each other. We can, energy vampirism, like that's a real thing. You feed on people's energy. Science is figuring this out all the time. So until you go and get a Reiki treatment, Qigong, just some type of energy work where you actually feel your field for the first time, you have no idea how powerful you are. You have no idea who you really are here. And the moment that you get all this open and you just come to terms with who you are, this is the biggest problem that we have, is none of us want to be honest with ourselves. Me too, right? We have this idea that we have to put on this show and we have to do this. I can tell you guys, the moment that you just start being your authentic self 24/7, you won't be tired, ever, 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 ever. It will not happen. Like I go to places and, I'll see girls that are super crazy dressed up and they look gorgeous and they spent who knows how much time with their makeup and their hair. And we appreciate you women. Thank you for doing this. But this is what I have to tell you. Some of the women that do this take it to the next step, and men do it too. Don't get me wrong, but just let me finish. What happens is there's this whole persona that gets put on with this, and imagine having to put this show on for 8 to 9 hours a day, right? On top of the work that you're having to do. So how could you not come home and be completely exhausted and be completely tired and be completely drained? When you get rid of all of that and just be 100,000% authentic, you're not going to get tired. I know it sounds weird, but just trust me. It's one of my secrets. It's why I'm always awake. You just be authentic, right? So that being said, I'm gonna jump to something else really quick. Phoenix, Paul, I'll find someone for you in Phoenix. Raise the Vibration Reiki Studio. They're amazing. Nicole is absolutely phenomenal. I'll send you the info. But so with our words, okay, this is a word that's misunderstood. And when I'm talking about being yourself and everything, this is the word, guys. This is what we strive for all the time. Beautiful, right? I've talked to people about this before, but new listeners, the word beautiful is not the word that you think it is. Okay, it's not. Beautiful simply means be you to full. Be you to the fullest extent possible. If you're out there and you're in any major city, I can tell you right now, from at least what I've seen, I don't think we've ever talked about people in probably the last 10 years like, oh man, look at that woman, she's so beautiful. When does it happen? It's, oh, she's so hot. Oh, she's so sexy. Oh, look at, man. Oh, but not the word beautiful. Not until you sit and talk with someone and get to know their core can you really use that word. Now, if that seems kind of weird to you, think about this. The words that you do relate to beautiful are words like mountains, trees, nature, rivers, right? All those things are always, they're so beautiful. You know why? Because they're not trying to impress anybody. They're just being themselves, and that is beautiful. See what I'm saying? So if you can do that, you'll just start to glow. You'll have this extra energy, this extra excitement. And these are all things we'll get. All this stuff is going to be an hour-long show eventually. So right now, just, bits here and there. Any of you guys out there ever heard of Ormus before? Okay, we're bringing it back into this alchemy thing real quick. Ormus is a substance that's called monatomic white gold. Okay, so earlier again, I was talking about misunderstanding words. If you guys have not looked into it, please look it up. Okay, monatomic white gold is something that's what the ancient Egyptians actually used to ingest. It's an element that's found in almost every mineral out there, and there's different processes that you can go through to withdraw, take it out. Now, there's lots of companies you can find online that have amazing, or it's called Ormus, O-R-M-U-S. Look it up, and you can order it online if you don't want to make your own. It is kind of a tricky process. But what's really interesting, because I've done it quite a few times, is it completely activates your light body, right? Because mostly what we know now is we have our physical form, and then we have our light body, and that's where we get our superpowers, right? So your light body is there. You just maybe can't feel it all the time. So when you take Ormus, it like supercharges everything about you. So if you see this tapestry behind me right now, and listeners that can't see it, it's a brilliant shade of multiple blues and yellows, and it has the Om symbol, and it's got, maybe 5 to 6 different colors in it. But really, it's got about 3,000 colors in it. And when you take Ormus, it's weird. It supercharges all your senses, and it's legal. It's not nothing weird. Again, it's something in everything. And so that's what the ancient Egyptians used to ingest, and that's what made them so powerful with metaphysics and energy and so on, because their light body was getting supercharged. Like the food we eat now, unless you're completely vegan and you're drinking, Kangen water and you're doing all these different things, physically we're still not that really clean as far as we're supposed to be, and that's at a physical form. And because we're this duality in this sense, again, much more, that's feeding into that. So it's really hard to have your energy field and everything clean without doing all these different exercises. So this is one of the things that you have to do. So anyways, they would take this, and that's where the idea of alchemy came into, right? When you guys were kids, did you ever play the telephone game, right? And within a matter of, 2.5 minutes and 12 to 15 kids, the story is completely wrong, right? Now, I just want you just to, theorize hypothetically, what if the ancient Egyptians, when they were talking about alchemy and turning lead into gold, they were actually talking about the monatomic white gold. And now you fast forward to the Renaissance times, the longest telephone story of all time, and now they're going, oh no, we can turn this lead into gold. And that's not what they meant at all. But that idea had Da Vinci for years and years and years working on this thing from a possible misconception. So again, that's alchemy, guys. This is how it works. So take diet, right? This is a tough one. You can take your diet, and most of the time, this is this interesting thing. I don't want to ever offend anybody, but I don't really have a filter, guys. I need you guys to just work with me on this. So if you have someone that's on the sickly side of being overweight, right? And comedy and everything, someone makes a fat joke. The person that the night before finished a box of Twinkies is going to be the one that got very upset and very hurt, because they know that it's not good for them, and they're doing it to themselves, and they feel guilty for it. Now you take that exact same person that didn't have Twinkies last night, even though they still have that exact same size, same everything, but they've been dieting and they've been exercising and doing it. They're not going to get as upset because they've acknowledged the problem, and now they're working on the solution. Now, I picked that because that's a very big thing that we have in America, but it works across everything, guys. We run from the things that we do wrong because we feel like our ego is going to be attacked, and because of that, we don't look for a solution, right? I don't care what grade that you're in, math is always an equation, right? So if there's a real problem, then it's math. It doesn't matter what it is, math will apply to everything. So here's what happens. We have something that we want or think that we want, and we see the equation required to get it. But if it's too much work, or if it's too much effort, or if it's too much energy, or too far out of the way, we manipulate that equation and try to sneak in a couple extra numbers or letters to manipulate that equation to get the answer that we want. And because of that, we're not coming up with an actual solution. We're just compounding the problem. And this is why we think we have something figured out and we fixed it, and then it comes right back into our life again because we've ignored the real problem. But these real problems, guys, I'm telling you, this is what will give you the strength. This is what will give you the direction. because everything that you have is there to build you, and it's an opportunity to learn. You never lose, ever. Even if you think you do, you didn't, though. You have to learn. If you learn, you're always winning. It doesn't matter what it is. So this is where we get into some fun stuff. Scientific method, guys. Metaphysics and scientific method don't really work that well together, okay? Because I'm gonna pick on a good friend of mine because I know he's in here, Kyle, right? So Kyle is a very super active, excited gentleman. I know this guy very, very well. He's in the chat room, and he could tell you some experiences that, you know, if you didn't know better or didn't know the truth, I guess I should say, you think he just sounded completely crazy. But this is the thing, guys. Has any person listening ever actually seen another person's dream? Someone comes into work, someone comes into school, your wife in the morning. I had the craziest dream. Have you ever seen it, though? But we automatically believe it because we've all had our own experience like it, even though we've never actually seen it. So this is a thing that is widely accepted worldwide that no one else can see, but we just go ahead and say is a real thing. And that doesn't have anything to do with anything religious, anything spiritual, anything. This is just contextual, guys. So one of the rules that we have in Mystech and really in my life is if it's a rule for everything, right? So when you want to cherry pick and choose which parts that you want to apply the same ideals to, you're going to have a mess on your hands every single time. And I'm going to pick on my traditionalist real quick because this is what I mean. In what I do with Mystech, I talk to so many people that, well, I need to talk to my doctor first, or that's just how I was raised, right? So when I hear someone say that's just how I was raised, it makes me want to steal their cell phone from them, because I don't know anybody that was raised with a cell phone that's my age. So if you were raised without a cell phone and now you have one, then that argument should not be able to apply. That means that you are able to learn and you are able to evolve. So when people are out there and they're not sure about, is this going to work or is this real or not, have your own experience. Do your own test. There's so many amazing things out there, guys. Please, if you guys have a pen and paper and you can write this down, Dr. Yamoto, look his water science up. You know, water actually retains emotion, and you'll see videos of when he says nice things to it and freezes it, it makes these beautiful patterns. But when you say negative things, it looks very distorted and dirty and sick. And I heard so many people that said it was fake. Well, the weird thing is, I've got water and a freezer in my house. And when I did the experiment myself, the exact same result happened. So it's much easier to just do your own experiment rather than wait around for someone else to tell you how to think, right? Because that's the real Jedi mind trick, right? It happens to us all the time. That's what the American dream is, ladies and gentlemen. If you did not know that, the American dream requires you to be asleep. And you're told your whole life to live the American dream. But you cannot dream if you're awake. You can't. In fact, when you're awake, you see the nightmare. And now all of a sudden you have vision because you're awake. And you look around and there's crazy holes all over the place. But the problem is, quoting the Matrix, the people will fight and destroy and kill you to stay in the system because they feel so lost without that guiding hand, right? It's Stockholm syndrome at the farthest level possible, right? If we get out of this, what are we going to do? I don't know. You know, there's things out there like the Mandela effect. We'll get into that to another day, but it's more proof of multiple universes and that we've shifted into them. And some people hear that, see the evidence, but are so terrified of the idea that they run. If you guys didn't know that, like, look that up too. And again, we'll talk about it and get into it. We got a lot of things to cover, and I want to make sure we cover as many different things as possible. But the Mandela effect, in short, there's like 180 some anomalies that will show you that things that existed when you were a child don't exist now. And it's things like things in Star Wars and the Monopoly guy. And, you know, I want to save all of it for another show, but it's pretty crazy and it's pretty intense, but it just shows that the multiverse is a real thing. And in quantum physics, the multiverse is a real thing. Earlier, someone had mentioned that, you know, the Force is strong with me. I'm a Jedi. So I'm going to talk about this real quick because I do plan on talking about the Jedi studies and classes and stuff that we do here in Portland. And it's not just, you know, fanboy stuff. It's an actual metaphysical practice. So with the concept of the multiverse, guys, right? And this is the idea that there's parallel universes all around us, and every single possibility that you could think of is a real thing. Okay, so to put that into smaller terms, let's say if you turned off the show right now and stopped listening, that would be one path, and if you stay and listen, that's another path. Those are parallel universes, right? It doesn't have to be all crazy where it means there's aliens. It's similar, but it's not. So it's really weird. If you take a color wheel, okay, and if you guys have ever seen one before, you know you make a bunch of triangles on a wheel and a bunch of different colors. When you spin it very fast, it becomes one color, only one. Once it slows down, it starts becoming multiple colors, right? And the slower it gets, you see even more colors. And if you're using a crayon, you can even see more shades, right? You know, we use color wheels because we want to simplify it as much as possible. But that idea of a color wheel is exactly the way the multiverse works, right? Depending on which version you want to go with, of not just the dimensions next to ours, but going up into the 4th and 5th and up to the 9th or 12th dimensions where they say God and source. And, you know, however, no, we can't even really fathom what that means. But the idea is, at that point, it's the most pure version of love and light and just absolute perfection. And because of that, in that place, in all pure source, in God, nothing outside of that pureness can exist. So if you drop down a dimension, more things can exist in that dimension, more negative things, more colors, more sounds. You drop down further and further and further, and oddly enough, as you're going down in these dimensions, the speed of that vibration is also slowing down. So when you get down into our form here on the 3rd dimension, you have all these colors and all these sounds and all these everything. But when they talk about ascending, then they say you become a body of light because now your vibration has raised. So that's how you can think about your multiverses going upwards. As far as going side to side, I recommend watching the TV show The Flash, because science fiction is not science fiction anymore, guys. It's science fact. If you're on a computer right now, you're on a cell phone right now, even if you're on a radio right now, congratulations, you're using science fiction at some point in mankind. And so oddly enough, we're now in the age of information, and even though all of it's out there at our fingertips, nobody has any, unless it's about the Kardashians or our president or, you know, whatever. And that's okay. I mean, if that's what you got to do. But I once was told that we'll never have world peace until everyone learns to take back their own shopping carts. Now, I say that after the things that people watch, because that is a very small, tiny little act. And that one thing saves so much time for somebody else. And it's not an extra thing really for you. It's your own thing. So if everyone had the integrity and level of doing these exact same things all the time, then the world would just be easier, right? But anyone out there ever get into fights with their wife or their husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, anything like that? On occasion, here and there, anything like that? Do you guys ever have it where like the argument comes to an end and then there's still some weird like tension and we're not really sure what to say or do next? And do you ever try to figure out why that happens or how to handle that? I ask this because what I want to really dig into someday with you guys is this idea that negativity is actually a virus. Okay? And just stick with me now. A virus's idea is to spread and expand and consume, right? So it's interesting that if you have an argument with a friend or a spouse or, you know, boyfriend, anything like that, if there's no ego involved with it and you're looking for a solution, it doesn't matter how long the fight, conversation, discussion goes, you will not get emotional. You won't, because you're finding the solution. But if ego's involved, even if you come to a solution, then that's where that intensity and extra angst comes from, right? So we have to be more focused on just the answer rather than right and wrong. Now, this is the weird thing about that. Google, guys, it's out there. Now, if you can use Google and get all the answers to everything that you need, why should you have any arguments with anybody ever? Because now we have things out there also called alternative facts, right? So I was talking about using the right words for things, right? You guys use the word love, right? I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. I'm going to give you guys, this is one of my favorite things to tell people. It's a really good, fun thing, and I'm going to have you guys do this exercise really quick. But the word love is also one of these words that's not really used in the defined version, right? And if you don't believe that, I'm going to give you guys this really good analogy as to why people end up cheating on people. It's a really interesting thing because everyone always worries about this happening. right? So did you know that your relationship, at least now, currently, and in this day and age, how society works, is more like a job than it is like a loving relationship? And this is what I mean. Usually when you find out about someone that you might date or a job, right, and we're just going to do it at the same time, usually you hear about it from a family member or a friend, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, you love the job, and she's got great hair, and oh, you guys will just hit it off. Or you drive by and you see help wanted, or you see her and she looks single and like she needs some help. Same thing. So what do? You go over and slide your resume. And if they're interested, then, they'll give you a call. And then you come over for the first date, and you go over all the things that you have to bring to the table, and they go over all the things that they have to bring to the table, and these are the benefits, and this is the pay, and this is the scenery. And if all that's a match, bam, you have yourself a full-time job. It's exciting, right? And you're so excited about this new job, you tell all your friends and family, man, I got the best job ever, right? And these are the benefits, and I get to take these days off, and I get this type of vacation time, and, and so on. And they're just like, oh, yep, it's just another job, just like anything else. And they know, right? And then, so eventually you've been at the job for, a year or two. You absolutely love it. Everything's been great. And the job goes, hey, man, everything's been really good, but we can't pay you overtime anymore. And you're like, all right, it's okay. It's okay. I love my job, and I can survive without the extra overtime. No big deal. I've already put all this time in. Don't want to go anywhere. Right. And then don't worry, it goes both ways, whether you're the employee or the employer, it works both ways. Don't worry. So then, another 2-3 years go by, and they go, hey, we're downsizing, and you can stay, but we're coming back vacation hours as well. And same thing, now you're looking at it as, I've been here for a while, and you know what, I already lost, but you know what, it's okay, man. I've been here so long. I love it. I'm staying here till the wheels roll off. No problem. Then out of nowhere, something happened, and now there's just no more overtime at all, and you're moving buildings. Now, at this point, everything's been fine. But whether it's a physical stress of the job, a financial stress of the job, emotional stress of the job, you now have this thing that you just feel is missing. And you're, for your own sanity or to pay your bills, you're going to have to get a part-time job. So you go and slide your resume out, and you maybe go on an interview. Right. And the weird thing is your part-time job always knows about your full-time job. And they're like, it's okay. It's cool. And you're so relaxed and excited now that your performance at the regular job has also now stepped up. But if the full-time job found out about the part-time job, you'd be fired in a minute. So they love the performance, but not the reasoning behind the performance. And here's the thing. It's not always that the job is lacking in anything. Maybe it's that you just want to grow, but there's not a position that's open to grow into. Right? If you start looking at your relationships the way that these jobs work, and this all ties back into that word love, and this is why I say it doesn't work the same way. If you, and you guys know what I'm saying with the job and the boyfriend-girlfriend thing, I hope. So if you want to take love, let's use father-son love, okay? So if you're the father and you own the company, and your son's been working at the company and says, hey, I think I'm going to go get a part-time job, the father goes, you know what, son? Go do that. Go do that. We're going to be here if you need us. But if that's what you need to do to be happy, you go do that. We'll be right here, because there's love involved there. Right? Now, on the other hand, if it's not the father and, hey, I got to go try this part. Hey, deuces, we'll replace you in a heartbeat. That's not love. Love means that you're sacrificing things for the other person. It has nothing to do with how you feel when they're around. You can love them, and that's when you say you love someone, that's a feeling that you are expressing towards that person, not a feeling that's towards yourself. Isn't that weird? Think about that for a second, because that's the thing I've never even been really told that. When you say I love someone, most of the time you're focused on the way, how it makes you feel. But if you're loving someone, then you're giving it to them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you're doing that and you're loving this person, then you need to be just as concerned, if not more so, with this person's needs and ideas and so on than with your own. That's what the whole point of love is. I mean, that's the definition of it. So there's all sorts of different types of relationships and so on and everything. But if you're really loving people, you have to use the right word. And you know what? Some days maybe it's not love. Maybe some days it's I'm owning this person today. And that's okay. If that's what you want to do and you want to accept it, this is the thing, guys. Every single thing that you do, as long as you're not physically or emotionally hurting another person directly, should be totally fine. After that, everything else is all in the mind. Everything else is all in the mind, right? And this comes down to impact, right? This is another huge word that just gets missed out all the time. So impact means something actually happens, right? So that means if you didn't see it, then if it didn't affect you, it's not real, okay? A long time ago, I had this apartment. I had these two guys move in upstairs, and the upstairs neighbor, my other neighbor above me, became like the three amigos, bestest of friends ever, right? And one day, the guys go to leave, and one turns around and kisses the other guy goodbye. And the other guy has like a meltdown, but he'd been hanging out with them. He had been going over for football and pizza and all these things. And afterwards, he looks down at me, and he's like, hey, did you know? And I'm like, no, what? And he was like, did you know? And he had this huge thing. And I'm looking at him like, yeah, what? Who cares? And he had been spending, weeks with these guys. And this idea he had in his head, it did not affect him in any way, shape, or form. It was just something that he had in his mind. Literally changed every single thing about him, and his perspective became very, very, very different. It was weird, but we do that all the time. So we have to learn to be able to just listen all the way and have a pause before we move forward with what we're talking about. And if we can do that, then we can communicate with each other so much better. And if we can default, right? This is where that perspective comes in, guys. One of the biggest things that you can understand is if you can default to be in agreement with the people you're talking with, instead of defaulting to sound superior, your entire life will change. You want to know an exercise for that? Rex, random acts of kindness. Start holding the door open for every person you come across. Say hi to everybody. Smile. These small little things is what it's going to take to change. Because, guys, you can't be on this show and listening to anything I'm saying and not put things into action. All right, if that's the case, then please just don't listen to me, and I'm okay with that. But the idea is we're trying to build a better world, and that doesn't happen just from listening and reading and liking stuff. It has to have action to it, right? So the first part of what I'm saying with Alchemy 101 is acknowledge, right? Acknowledge, guys. This is the thing. That's another one of those words. Watch, you break it apart. Acting on knowledge. That's what acknowledge is. So you have to act on the things that you know, right? And by doing that, then you can start changing things. But you cannot change anything without having a firm grasp of what it is, right? It's like sand versus Play-Doh. It's just not going to work out. So this is the exercise, guys. Anyone that's listening, if you have your phone, please put it down, whatever you can. But I need you to have both your hands. If you can see me live, just watch. But so a very good friend of mine, right? A gentleman named John Delight, man. He's heart and soul of mine, man. Man. I hope I'm on the show someday. But this guy showed me this thing, and he's a mentor to me, and this just blew me away. And I'm so excited to be able to share this with you. So if you have the ability, just put your hands right in front of you like you're pointing up to the ceiling, right? So your fingers should be at maybe shoulder length, about a foot away from you, and just point up with both your fingers and have your fingertips facing you, right? So you want to be looking at your fingertips. So when I say, you can start now, only look at your right finger, guys. Just trust me on this, all right? Just nothing else matters. You want to be able to look at that finger. Don't look at your other finger. Don't look at the other fingers on that hand. Just that finger, the fingerprints, the lines in your finger, right? If you've got a scar, just if you were the greatest artist, get to know that finger so well that if you had a pen and paper right now, you could draw it perfectly. Just really get to know it. Now, when I say to, and please don't do it yet, but you're going to look to your left finger and do the exact same thing, but nothing else matters right now but that right finger, okay? So on the count of three, guys, all right, 1, 2, 3, look at your left finger. Now, don't go back and look at your right finger, but now just study that finger the exact same way, okay? Just study it, get to know it, and from what you can remember, see if you can notice any comparisons, but just really, really get to know this finger now, okay? And nothing else matters. Okay, now in just a couple seconds, still study it. Okay, now look, you can put both your hands down, and I want to ask you guys something. If you're being honest, when you looked from your right finger to your left finger, what did you see in that instant? If you're being honest, it's nothing. You won't see anything. Your focus will go so quick from one finger to the other that, look, you guys' hands are down now. Look in front of you and see all the things that are in front of you right now that you just missed out on over something that's the size of a dime. This is how we spend our lives every single day. We get up and we go from finger to finger to finger to finger, pardon the pun, but we do that and we miss out on the entire world, right? And what I say earlier, we're missing out on entire universes that are within our orbit all the time, guys, all the time. You want to know how to be excited? You want to know how to have energy? Get excited about the small stuff, right? I'm going to go back to at the beginning, the purple flowers I was talking about. It's a flower. It's a flower. And in this day and age, that sounds like absolutely nothing. You know, we're about to have flying cars and teleportation devices, but look at the things around you. When you can see these things and the intricacy that is in nature and in the things around you and the smile of your wife, man, is there anything? Those things should be able to just take you to places that you don't even have words for. And when you can learn to do that with something as small as a flower, to something as big and serious as your wife's smile, to your kid, to your getting married, for whatever it is, these other things, you're going to be so excited that you're going to tackle people around you, right? I was on a show earlier today with Jennifer Collins. Check her out. She's also on Artists First. And one of the things she had mentioned is when I'm around people, my energy kind of exudes. And I've had people at different kiosk locations end up hanging out, talking to me for 6 to 7 hours, trying to figure out what the secret is. And there's no secret. The secret is I just know who I am and I've accepted it. And this is the thing. I am who I say I am. You guys are who you say you are. So you get to make that decision. If you cannot do something, then you're right. You're not ever going to be able to. But everything that we have, like, what about planes, right? What about my cell phone? What about UV light, guys? I mean, there's things that we have that were never, ever, ever possible, right? Video gaming. Have you guys seen what video gaming is doing right now? Virtual reality that's coming. We're going to be able to do this setting in a virtual world within the next 5 to 10 years that we'll all be able to meet up and see these things. Like, this is insane. This is the greatest time to be alive, but everyone's acting like there's a stigma from everyone else around you, and you have to stay within your personal bubble. There's no growth. There's no understanding. There's no slow down. There's none of those things, right? Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love Phoenix, but I moved to Portland to get away from the hustle and bustle and speed. And as soon as I got here, every single thing I've ever wanted, everything. It's crazy to even be able to say that. I mean, this is the first night being on a show. I've been talking about doing this for 5 years. And it literally just was practically handed to me, came out of nowhere. And it's just from not having any desire other than growing and helping other people grow. Imagine that. Imagine what kind of world we would have if we could all do that. And I know a lot of people that are listening and people I know in the channel that you guys do these things all the time, right? And this is the thing that I've been seeing a lot lately that has been pushing my buttons. So all the light workers out there, all the people that are extra friendly to the homeless people, all the people that go out and give food, all the people that are really my humans that are in here, right? My demigods, my people. Don't let anyone redirect your drive. Don't let anyone tell you that what you're doing is for your ego. I've seen this post in my social media a few times in the last 3 weeks, and I don't understand it. So I understand that there are stars out there, and I understand that there are politics out there and politicians that do things not necessarily from the goodness of their heart, if you know what I mean. It's a song and dance to win votes and whatever else. But at the same time, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't realize so many people have been talking. I'm so sorry. Hey, guys. Oh, I got stuck there. Oh, man, I'm so sorry, guys. Next time. But so this is the thing. I've seen people that say, if you go feed the homeless and then post about it, you're doing it to feed your ego. No. How about be the change, right? So I've got a 10-year-old son, right? Because, again, if it's a rule for everything, right? This is my thing. I have a 10-year-old son. So if he thinks it's very, very difficult to take the trash out, and I never do it and say, hey, I took the trash out, he might not know how easy it is. Now, if I post, hey, I took the trash out, and my son is watching my social media and knows, oh, he did that. Maybe I could do that. So you can do things and post and talk about them and talk about everything that you do, and it's not about your ego. These things should inspire other people to go out and do them. It should show them how easy it is to go out and just be a good human being. Like, that's the thing. Can you guys really tell me And I don't know what it's like outside of America. So I know we've got listeners around the world, but I feel pretty strongly that it's difficult to just say that the average version of humanity right now are good people. And that's kind of the thing across the board. And where do we lose that? Because I go to places, and obviously I've got you guys here, so I know we're out there, right? I've been to festivals where there's thousands of these people, but it's still so small and so communal. And the idea is to get out there and make an impact, right? Just imagine if, say, there's 5 people in here right now listening. If we all went out tomorrow and just did one thing nice for somebody, that might be the only time that they had something nice done to them in the last month and a half, right? Be super polite all the time. You never know when people are watching, right? These are things that you have to just keep in mind, right? Now, a couple of things I just want to let you know. We're going to be wrapping up pretty soon, but hope this has been fun for you guys. I've had an amazing time. If you guys want to know more about the things we're going to get into, just look into more things about metaphysics, okay? There's an amazing channel on YouTube called Spirit Science. Gives you a great breakdown to everything. Read more, meditate. We'll get into all these different types of practices and things like that. But this has been really, really fun, guys. If you have any questions, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to catch some people. Elo, man, I love you, brother. Dale, how you doing? Oh man, yeah. So the negativity virus, right? Earlier I was talking about that, and thank you, Jen. They want to grow, they want to spread, right? So if you're out and you're talking to somebody and you spread and spew your negativity on them, you're infecting them with that virus. This is what happens. And when you infect them, they don't know what to do, and now they get that same angst and negativity that you had until they pass it on to somebody else. And this is how the virus of negativity gets spread. So you cannot say that you love anybody and then complain without trying to find a solution. Not really, not if you're really thinking about it. So how are you going to be like, I love you and I want to kill you at the same time? Because all these stresses and all this weight, it's been scientifically proven, is responsible close to 85% of all our disease. So why are we so stressed out all the time? Why are we this way? Just be nice, right? Inspiring others. That's right, Elo. And Elo, man, this guy has an amazing show. He's online all the time on Facebook. Guys, definitely check him out. Really good dude. Yeah, so guys, we're gonna have some other stuff we're gonna be talking about. I'm trying to make sure I don't go over. They told me I could. I'm just really excited. A couple of things I guess I can touch on real quick. We got about 5 more minutes unless you guys have any questions about anything. Is for the Jedi Studies on the radio. You'll just have to listen to it. If you got me live, you're gonna be able to see it real quick. But we actually have like lightsabers that we use to teach metaphysics, and we use them as a form of discipline. We use them as a way of teaching meditation. We use them as a way of teaching energy work through Reiki, Qigong, things like that. And what's interesting is something that small has inspired my kid and a handful of other kids that now they want to come out and do this practice over and over and over. And this is building discipline. It's building, self-worth. It's building all these different things that are happening. So you can do that with anything. Turn anything into a game. If you can turn it into a game, because that's all this is. This is a big, I guess you can say it's super real. And guys, a big episode, and it might be next week, I think, as I want to get into astral projection with you guys, right? Because this is a very big thing in my household, and not the exact same context. I want you guys to know people are addicted to playing video games because it's the closest version that we have to astral projection without knowing how to do it, right? And we'll get into a whole episode about that. But these are things that we're going to touch on. So what I mean by that is I played games with my father in the Midwest. Now, I don't get to physically see, touch any of those things, but I know his consciousness is on the other end, and that's how I get to hang out with him. So that is a version of astral projection that you're interacting in another digital realm outside of your physicality in a digital frame. So that is why there's so many people that are so addicted to gaming, because this is a way that we're able to leave our body, in a sense, for people that don't know how to still do it. Right? That's what it is. There's all these little things that the people that run the world behind the world, they know about all these things and know how all of it works. And they just set up little things that kind of mask it, that kind of redirect us from where we're at. And on Alchemy 101, I'm hoping to reveal some of these things to you guys, uncover some of these things, and just see what we can build and what we can grow and continue to acknowledge our lead and turn it into gold. Thank you guys for listening. It's Halo Marques, Alchemy 101. Love you guys. The last thing I'll leave you guys with is in the morning when you wake up, have a conversation with yourself in the mirror. All right. And next week we'll talk about what those conversations look like, but really do it, right? Because you cannot really get to know you without having that conversation. And unless you're walking down the street and saying you're talking to Jesus, it's not okay to just talk to yourself. People will think you're weird. So, and the weird thing is your way your brain works, you'll think it's weird too. So if you use a mirror, there's at least another person there that's talking back. So you'll feel, see, yeah. All right, cool. All right, hey, I love you guys. Hope I'm worthy. Excited, Alchemy 101. Have a great night, guys. Talk to you soon.